My palms cup Zane's face, slick with blood that is not all his own. His breath crashes against mine, ragged and desperate, as torchlight flickers across the shattered stone of the war hall. Outside these walls, the pack howls for death. Mine first, then his if he is foolish enough to protect me. "This is madness," he growls, fingers digging into my waist hard enough to bruise. His armor is cracked, his dark braids tangled from battle, and those storm-gray eyes burn with something between fury and devotion. "You should have run when I told you to." I tilt my chin up, defiant even now. "And leave you to face them alone? Not a chance, Alpha King." His jaw clenches. "They are calling you abomination. Forbidden." The Omega who bewitched their king. My wolf claws beneath my skin, screaming mate so loud I can barely think. Then let them call me whatever they want. One dangerous night brought us here, Zane. You were supposed to be my death, not my fate. His mouth hovers a breath from mine. If I choose you, everything burns. I smile through the fear, then burn it. 3 hours ago, I never imagined it would end like this. Let me tell you how it started. The woods on the border never sleep, but tonight they feel awake in a different way, like the trees themselves are holding their breath. Branches whip at my face as I run, cloak snapping behind me, the leather satchel at my hip thudding with every stride. The moon is a thin, dying curve overhead, barely enough light to see by. Good. Darkness is my friend. Darkness hides the sins I am committing against the Alpha King's laws. "Stay close," I hiss over my shoulder. 3 shadows cling to my path. 2 Omegas and 1 pup, all of them shaking, eyes wide and silver with fear. Their scents are a tangled mess of terror and suppressed heat, barely held down by the vials I shoved into their hands an hour ago. Heat suppressants aren't supposed to make it this far into the kingdom. They're contraband twice over out here. But contraband is better than a breeding cage. Roots claw at my boots. I leap them by memory. I know this forest blind. I have to. The safe house is less than a mile away now, tucked in a ravine so forgotten even the patrol maps pretend it doesn't exist. If I can just get them across the borderline, damn the king and his laws. He can keep his gilded fortress and his cruel decrees. He'll never even know I was here. A twig snaps to my right, not mine. I freeze for a fraction of a second, ears straining. The pup bumps into my back with a soft whimper, and I reach blindly for her hand, squeezing once in warning. Her name is Mira. She shouldn't even be here. No pup should have to run for her life in the dark because some alpha decided Omegas belong on their backs instead of on their feet. The wind shifts. That's when I smell them. Rot. Old blood. Wet fur left to sour in the sun. Rogues. My stomach plummets even before the first snarl rips through the trees ahead. It's a sound that vibrates in my bones, wrong in a way pack wolves never are. Rogues have no tether, no alpha, no rules, just hunger and madness and teeth. "Run," I say, voice low and sharp. "Follow the stream bed. Don't stop until you see the lantern light. If you hear anything behind you, you do not look back. You understand me?" The older Omega, Hana, grabs Mira's hand and drags her forward. The third, a boy barely older than 16, hesitates. "What about you?" "I'll take care of it." My wolf curls and uncoils under my skin, restless. "Hungry. Go." Another snarl, this one closer. Too close. They run. I wait. The forest holds its breath for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then the rogues burst through the undergrowth, a blur of matted fur and glowing eyes, ribs sharp under patchy pelts. 2 of them, maybe 3. It doesn't matter. 1 would be enough to tear the others apart. I move before I can think myself out of it. Bones crack, skin burns, and the world fractures as I let my wolf take me. Shifting hurts. Anyone who says otherwise is lying, or has shifted so often they've forgotten what it feels like to be human. My spine arches, fingers tearing into the dirt, jaw elongating into a muzzle as the forest explodes into sharper color and sound. Leaves glitter with veins of silver, every heartbeat thunders in my ears, and the reek of rogue stench slams into me like a physical blow. They skid when they see me, surprised. Good. Let them be surprised. I bare my teeth and launch myself at the closest one. We collide with a crunch of bone and wet thud of bodies in mud. Claws rake my flank, hot lines of pain that only make my wolf snarl louder. I go for the throat, always the throat. My teeth sink into greasy fur, then flesh, then the pulsing, thrashing life beneath. Blood gushes hot and copper over my tongue as the rogue yelps and starts to thrash. The second one slams into my side. Air blasts from my lungs as I'm thrown against a tree. Bark splinters. Stars explode in my vision. The scent of my own blood spikes, sharp and metallic, and with it something else I've fought for years to hide. Omega. The suppressants I took earlier are already burning thin from the shift and the adrenaline. My scent pushes through the chemical haze, sweet and heavy, riding the steam of my blood into the night air. No. Panic flares, white and useless, even as my wolf snarls and twists free. I duck under snapping jaws, claws gouging the second rogue's belly. Intestines spill in a slick, shining rope. He doesn't even seem to notice at first, still trying to bite, still trying to... A howl cuts through the chaos. Not rogue, pack. No, worse. Royal. The sound is deep and commanding, wrapped in authority that slams into my wolf like a physical blow. It rings with dominance so potent my legs nearly buckle. My body recognizes it before my mind does. This is no border alpha. This is something older, colder, carved from iron and moonlight. The Alpha King. I freeze for a fraction of a second, shock cracking my focus wide open. The surviving rogue doesn't. It lunges, teeth grazing my throat. That snaps me out of it. I twist hard, using its momentum against it, and feel a savage, vicious satisfaction when its neck breaks under the torque of our tangled bodies. It drops like a stone, finally still. Breathing hard, sides heaving, I stand over the bodies of the rogues and listen. The forest is no longer quiet. Wolves move through the trees in a fast-closing circle, paws whispering over leaves, armor whispering against leather, voices low and sharp. I can smell steel and discipline, the clean, cold scent of a well-kept pack. I can also smell myself, my heat-softened omega scent spilling into the night like spilt honey. Covered in rogue blood, heart still racing, I am suddenly very, very aware of exactly how illegal it is for someone like me to be out here. An unregistered omega. On royal land, with contraband. My only chance is to run before they, too late. The first of the royal patrol steps into the clearing, silver insignia gleaming at his throat. His wolf eyes widen when he sees the bodies, then me. Confusion, alarm, and then his nostrils flare. He smells me. A low, involuntary growl rolls out of his chest, his own wolf surging at the scent of omega. Of me. He takes a step forward, hands lifting as if to reach. Another howl splits the night, closer now, making every hair along my spine stand on end. The patrol wolf flattens instantly, head bowing, eyes dropping to the dirt. Submission radiates off him in waves. My wolf wants to do the same, to sink down and bare its throat, but I grit my metaphysical teeth and lock my muscles. I will not bow, not even to him. The trees part like they're afraid to touch the figure that steps through. Black armor, dark braids pulled back tight from a face carved from stone. Eyes like a storm about to break. Power rolls off him in suffocating waves, thick with command and old scars. Zane. I know his face from coins and banners and whispered curses spit into the dirt of border camps. Seeing him in the flesh is like realizing a myth has teeth. His gaze sweeps the clearing once, taking in the dead rogues, the blood, the trembling patrol. Then it lands on me, stops. Everything else goes silent. For a fraction of a heartbeat, no one moves. The world narrows to the distance between us, the trickle of my blood down my leg, the heavy, traitorous perfume of my omega scent thickening the air. His pupils blow wide, swallowing the gray until his eyes are almost black. He inhales once, twice, like a starving man scenting food he's been denied his entire life. Then he moves. One moment I am standing over two corpses, fur bristling, lungs burning. The next, a massive weight slams into me. Armor, muscle, and fury hit with the force of a falling tree. My back cracks against something unyielding, stone half buried in moss. Pain flares white hot, claws scrabble uselessly at his chest. He pins me as if I weigh nothing, one forearm braced across my collarbones, his body caging mine. The scent of him crashes over me, storm rain, iron, and something darker, wilder, that makes my wolf whimper and bare her throat at the same time. He lowers his face to my neck and inhales like he is drowning and I am air. Omega, he growls, the word a verdict and a promise all at once. The forest spins around us as my heart slams against my ribs. The last thing I see before the edges of my vision go dark is those storm-dark eyes locking onto mine, wild and hungry, as if fate had just played its cruelest trick on both of us. I wake to the cold bite of iron around my wrists and the smell of rain-soaked stone pressing into my lungs. For a disorienting second, I think I'm still in the forest, still bleeding out against the moss-covered rock with the Alpha King's breath against my throat. But then my vision sharpens and I realize I am somewhere far worse. Somewhere underground, somewhere that smells like old blood and newer fear, and beneath it all, threaded through the dampness, like smoke through silk, the scent of him. My head throbs. I try to move and the chains rattle, short and unforgiving, bolted to a wall behind me. I'm still in my human form, thank the moon, but someone stripped away my cloak and boots. My shirt is torn where claws raked my side, the wounds already half healed but still tender. The cell is small, barely 8 feet across, with a single iron door and no windows. Torchlight flickers somewhere beyond the bars, casting jagged shadows that crawl across the floor like living things. I test the chains once, twice. They don't budge. My wolf stirs uneasily beneath my skin, confused and agitated. She wants to shift, to fight, to run, but something presses down on her instincts like a hand over a flame. Submission. Not my own, his. The bond I felt snap into place when he pinned me against that stone is still there, a thread pulled taut between my ribs and something distant, something pacing. I close my eyes and breathe through the panic, trying to claw its way up my throat. Hana, Mira. The boy whose name I never learned. Did they make it? Did they reach the safe house, or did the patrol drag them back in chains like mine? My stomach twists at the thought. If they're dead because I was too slow, too reckless. The door slams open. I jerk against the chains, adrenaline spiking hot and immediate. My wolf snarls, teeth bared even though my body can't shift. He stands in the doorway like a dark monument, backlit by torchlight that turns his edges molten. The armor is gone now, replaced by black leather and a tunic laced tight across a chest that could belong to a warrior twice his age. His hair is still braided back, but a few strands have come loose, softening the brutal lines of his face. Those storm-gray eyes find mine immediately, and the weight of his gaze is a physical thing. Zane, Alpha King, my mate. The word tastes like poison and honey at the same time. He steps inside and the door clangs shut behind him. The sound echoes in the small space, final as a coffin lid. He doesn't speak at first, just stands there studying me like I'm a puzzle he's trying to solve, or a weapon he's deciding how to destroy. I lift my chin and meet his stare head on. If he's waiting for me to cower, he'll be waiting a long time. You killed 2 rogues, he says finally. His voice is low, controlled, but there's something brittle underneath it. Something close to fury. Alone, half your size, and untrained. They were between me and people I was protecting. My voice comes out rougher than I'd like, scraped raw. So I killed them. His jaw tightens. You're an Omega, and you're the Alpha King who made it illegal for Omegas to exist outside your breeding camps. Congratulations, we both know things we shouldn't. A muscle ticks in his cheek. He takes a step closer, and my wolf whines despite herself, torn between wanting to bare her throat and wanting to rip his out. The bond pulls tight, singing with proximity, with need. I hate it. I hate that my body recognizes him as mine, even when my mind knows he's the architect of every nightmare I've spent years running from. You were smuggling contraband, he continues, voice dropping lower. Dangerous, heat suppressants, banned substances, guiding unregistered Omegas across royal borders. Guilty. His eyes flash. Do you have any idea what the penalty is for? Death, I interrupt. Public execution if you're feeling merciful, the camps if you're not. I know your laws, your majesty. I've spent 3 years breaking every single one of them. Silence crashes between us like a fist through glass. He stares at me, and I watch something complicated twist through his expression. Rage, confusion, and beneath it, threaded through like a vein of gold and stone, something that looks almost like pain. You're my mate, he says, and the words sound like an accusation. I didn't ask to be, neither did I. He moves suddenly, closing the distance between us in 2 long strides. I press back against the stone wall, chains rattling, but there's nowhere to go. He braces one hand beside my head, leaning in close enough that I can see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes, can smell the rain and iron scent of him filling my lungs. Do you understand what you've done to me? What this He gestures sharply between us, at the invisible thread binding us. What this means? That you're stuck with a forbidden Omega as a fated mate? I tilt my head, defiant even though my heart is hammering. Poor you. His hand moves to my throat, not squeezing, just resting there, fingers splayed over my pulse. A claim, a threat, both. I could kill you, he says softly. My laws demand it, the council would expect it. Every alpha in my court would call it justice. Then do it. I hold his gaze, refusing to blink. But if you're going to murder me for being born wrong, at least have the decency to look me in the eye when you do. Something flickers across his face, surprise maybe, or respect. His thumb traces the line of my jaw, a touch so light it almost doesn't exist, and my traitorous body shivers. You're not afraid, he murmurs, almost to himself. I'm terrified, I correct. But I've been afraid my whole life. It doesn't mean I'm going to make this easy for you. He exhales, slow and controlled, and steps back. The absence of his touch feels like a wound. He turns, paces to the far side of the cell, one hand dragging through his hair in a gesture that looks too human for a king. The wolves you were protecting, he says finally, not looking at me. Where did you take them? My blood goes cold. I don't know what you're talking about, Lila. Hearing my name in his mouth is a shock. I didn't tell him, which means someone did, or he already knew, which is worse. You can lie to me, he continues, voice flat. Or you can tell me the truth and I'll consider letting them live. You don't have them. I say it like a fact, praying it's true. If you did, you wouldn't be asking. He turns back to face me, and there's something new in his expression, something calculating. No, I don't, but I will. My trackers are already following the scent trail. It's only a matter of time. My stomach drops. Hana, Mira, the safe house. If they find it, what do you want? The words taste like ash. He studies me for a long moment, then crouches so we're eye level. Close enough to touch. Close enough that the bond hums between us like a plucked string. Information, he says. You know things. Border routes, smuggling networks, who's moving Omegas and where. You've been operating under my nose for years. His gaze hardens. And someone's been helping you. Someone inside my territory, maybe inside my own court. I don't answer. Tell me what you know, he says quietly. Names, locations, everything. And I'll spare the wolves you were protecting. I'll let them disappear into whatever hole you crawled out of. And me? His jaw tightens. You stay here, under my control, alive but contained. A prisoner, a secret. He leans closer, and his voice drops to something almost intimate. Because if the council learns what you are, what we are, they'll demand your execution and my abdication. The only reason you're breathing right now is because I haven't decided what to do with you yet. I search his face, looking for the lie. But all I see is conflict, a king at war with his wolf, a man furious at fate for tying him to the one thing his laws forbid. If I tell you, I say slowly, you'll weaponize it, use it to destroy the networks that are saving lives. If you don't tell me, he counters, I'll find them anyway. And I won't be merciful. We stare at each other, trapped in a game neither of us wants to play. Finally, I make my choice. I'll tell you what I know, I say, but not all of it. Not the safe houses, not the names of the Omegas already free. Only the routes, only the supply lines, and only if you swear on your crown that the 3 wolves I was with tonight walk away unharmed. His eyes narrow. You're negotiating with me? You gave me an opening. I'm taking it. For a second, I think he's going to refuse, going to grab me by the throat and shake the answers out. But instead, something that might be a smile ghosts across his mouth. Dangerous, almost admiring. You don't bow, he says softly, even now. Would you prefer I did? No, the word comes out rougher than he intended. He stands abruptly, putting distance between us again. 3 wolves for the border routes and supply contacts. That's the deal. Swear it. His gaze locks onto mine. On my crown and my wolf, they live. The bond shimmers with the truth of it. He means it. I exhale, some of the fight draining out of me. Then we have a deal, Alpha King. He stares at me for a heartbeat longer, something unreadable flickering through his expression. Then he turns and walks to the door, pausing with his hand on the iron. You're either very brave or very foolish, Omega, he says without looking back. Maybe both? The door slams shut, leaving me alone in the dark with the scent of rain and iron and the ghost of his touch still burning on my skin. They come for me at dawn. Not guards with drawn blades this time, but a woman in dark leather and a silver beta's mark at her throat, flanked by 2 soldiers whose hands never leave their weapons. The cell door grinds open and cold air spills in, carrying the distant hum of the waking fortress. Voices, boots, the clang of steel. "On your feet," the woman says. Her eyes are sharp, weighing everything. "The king wants you moved." I push myself up, iron cuffs heavy around my wrists. To where? The execution block or the breeding pens? One of the guards bristles. The woman just arches a brow. "To a chamber near his." "Don't make me regret arguing for chains instead of a collar." She says it like a threat, but there's calculation there too. She's measuring my reactions, filing them away. I file her away in return, mid-30s, scar along her jaw, moves like she knows exactly how much force it would take to break my neck. I let them lead me. The dungeon gives way to staircases and narrow corridors that twist upward through the fortress like veins. The smell changes as we climb. Less damp stone, more smoke and leather and wolf. By the time we reach the upper floors, the air tastes different. Charged, important. We stop before a heavy wooden door carved with the royal crest. The guards take up positions on either side. The woman unlocks my cuffs, leaving the skin beneath raw and red. "Try to run and you'll be dead before you hit the next landing," she says almost conversationally. "But he says you're not to be harmed unless he gives the order." "How generous," I mutter, rubbing my wrists. She almost smiles. "You have no idea." Then she pushes the door open and nods me inside. The chamber is not what I expected. It's large, yes, with high-arched windows and a view that looks out over the forest I know too well. A fire burns in a stone hearth, throwing warm light over rugs and dark wood furniture. There's a bed big enough to swallow 3 people, a table scattered with maps and scrolls, and shelves lined with books that look well used, not decorative. It's not a cell. It's a cage disguised as a room. A cloak lies folded over the back of a chair, black with the royal crest stitched in silver thread. Beside it, pieces of armor gleam dully in the firelight. The space smells faintly of soap, leather, and that same storm scent that lives under my skin now. He isn't here. Clothing is there, the woman says, jerking her chin toward a chest at the foot of the bed. "You're expected to look presentable. For what?" I ask. "You're being kept as a rogue prisoner," she says. "For now. That means no one gets to see an Omega cowering in chains near the king's rooms. It means you dress like a soldier's prisoner, not a camp pet. Understand?" I swallow the instinctive growl at the word pet. "I understand." She leaves me with one last assessing look. The lock clicks behind her. I'm not stupid enough to think that means I'm alone. There are eyes everywhere in this place. Still, it's more privacy than I've had since the forest. I open the chest and pull out the clothing. Dark trousers, soft from wear. A fitted tunic, black with simple lacing. A leather breastplate, clearly made for someone a little broader than me, and a cloak of heavy wool that smells faintly of smoke and rain. Court clothes, but practical, for moving, fighting. Not the silks and chains they put on Omegas in the camps. I strip quickly, wincing as fabric drags over half-healed wounds. The trousers fit well enough, the tunic less so. I wrestle with the breastplate straps, twisting and tugging until it sits crooked on my shoulders, one side gaping awkwardly. The cloak is the worst. It's heavier than it looks, the weight of it dragging at my shoulders. I flip it around the wrong way twice before managing to get it sitting roughly where it should. The clasp at the throat refuses to cooperate, the small metal hook slipping just out of reach every time. My fingers fumble, traitorously clumsy. "Your people are going to think I strangled you before the council gets a chance if you keep trying to kill yourself with that clasp." His voice comes from the doorway, low and edged with dry annoyance. I start, heat flooding my cheeks. Maybe if the designer didn't hate hands, it would be easier. Zane steps inside, closing the door behind him with a soft thud. He's back in armor now, black plates molded to his shoulders and chest, leather bracers worn but well oiled. His braids are tighter, his expression sharper, like he's already fought 3 battles before breakfast. His gaze sweeps over me once, lingering on the crooked armor, the tangled cloak, the clasp I'm still wrestling with. Something unreadable flickers in his eyes. "Come here," he says. "No, thank you," I reply automatically. "I'll figure it out. You're failing spectacularly," he says. "Come here." The bond tugs at me, treacherous. I grit my teeth and step toward him anyway because refusing now would look like fear, and I refuse to give him that satisfaction. He closes the distance the rest of the way, one gloved hand coming up to brush mine aside. His fingers are warm where they graze my skin. My pulse jumps. My wolf goes very, very still. The clasp hooks on his first try, the motion efficient, practiced. Then he steps behind me, large hands settling on my shoulders as he adjusts the breastplate, tightening one strap, loosening another. The metal shifts against my ribs, settling more comfortably. One of his fingers brushes the side of my throat as he leans in to check the fit. My wolf shudders. I hate that he feels it. His breath ghosts over my ear. "You're shaking. It's cold," I lie. "It's not." He steps around to face me again, eyes searching mine. "Your scent changes when I touch you. Maybe stop touching me, then." His mouth curves, not quite a smile. "That's complicated." We stand too close, the air between us thick with things neither of us wants to name. I force myself to take a step back, dragging in a shaky breath that smells like him and smoke and the faint metallic tang of the chains that were here before me. "Why move me?" I ask. "Why not leave me in the dungeon until you decide whether to kill me?" "Because you're my mate," he says simply, "and because if anyone down there realized what you were, I'd have to rip their throats out for breathing near you." The matter-of-fact way he says it makes my stomach flip. "You're real romantic, you know that?" I say dryly. He ignores the jab. "You stay in this room unless escorted. You do not speak to anyone about what you are. To them, you're a captured rogue." "I'm questioning for information about the border rebels. If anyone suspects more, they'll push for your execution. Some of them will push for mine." "Your own court wants you dead?" "Some of them always have," he says, moving to the table littered with maps. "A king is useful until he stops being convenient." He gestures, and I join him despite myself. The maps are detailed, inked with rivers and mountains and pack borders. I recognize some of the markings: the safe paths smugglers use, the canyons where patrols never go. There are red pins stuck into several locations along the outer ring of his territory, places where rogues attacked, places where omegas vanished. "You did this," he says quietly, fingers tapping one of the pins. "With your networks, with your stolen supplies. You made a mockery of my patrols. If your patrols weren't hunting omegas like animals, I wouldn't have had to." I trace a path between two red pins with my eyes, imagining Hana and Mira slipping along that route months ago, before I ever smelled the Alpha King scent. "I didn't start this war, Zane. Your laws did." His hand stills on the table. "Those laws hold this kingdom together, do they?" I meet his gaze. "Or do they just keep a certain kind of wolf comfortable while everyone else bleeds?" For a moment, I think I've gone too far. His eyes darken, shoulders tensing. The air hums with restrained violence. My wolf crouches, bracing for impact. Then he exhales slowly, some of the tension bleeding out. "When I took the crown," he says, voice low, "the packs were tearing each other apart. Alphas hoarding omegas as status symbols, wars over bloodlines, pups ripped from mothers in the name of purity. I shut down 3 breeding rings personally. I killed the alphas who ran them and burned their banners. You replaced them with state-sanctioned camps," I say, heat rising in my chest. "With collars and quotas and guards who treat omegas like currency. I centralized control," he snaps, "so I could see the abuse, not have it hidden in 100 private dens. So at least I knew where they were, so I could stop the worst of it. The worst of it is that it exists at all. We stare at each other across the maps. Something raw and ugly beats between us. My first mate thought like you," he says finally, so quietly I almost don't hear it. The room shifts. My heartbeat stutters. I say nothing. "She was the daughter of a border alpha," he continues, gaze distant. "Not omega, not noble, just kind, stubborn as hell. She believed we could change everything overnight, tear down the old ways and build something better before the dust settled." "What happened?" I ask, though part of me already knows this story will end in blood. All stories like this do. "There was a raid on a camp." His jaw clenches. "I took a patrol to put down the traffickers. She followed, against orders, convinced she could negotiate. The traffickers used her as leverage. They forced a shift in a confined space, panicked wolves everywhere, and one of them set the whole building on fire." He looks at his hands like he can still see the flames licking them. "I dragged her out myself," he says. "She died 2 days later. Infection, smoke in her lungs, and the council told me it was proof I couldn't be soft." That compassion kills kings. My chest aches, unexpected and sharp. I'm sorry. His eyes snap to mine, searching for mockery. He must not find it, because his shoulders loosen slightly. I vowed after that, he says, voice rough, never to let my personal attachments compromise the crown again, never to let anyone be used against me. And then you scented me, I whisper, and then I scented you. Silence stretches, heavy with ghosts. My people call it the moon's cruelty, I say after a moment. Fated bonds that make no sense. Omegas tied to monsters, alphas tied to those they were taught to hate. What do you call it? He asks. Bad luck, I say. Terrible timing. His mouth twitches. We end up talking until the fire burns low. I tell him about the border dens, the pups I've seen sold like meat, the Omegas who vanish when they're no longer useful. I describe the look in a girl's eyes when she realized the patrol marching her away wore the same crest as the rescuers who took her sister. He listens, jaw tight, fingers flexing against his thigh. He doesn't argue, not every time. In return, he tells me about treaties barely holding the packs together, rival alphas waiting for any excuse to tear his kingdom into pieces. About the prophecy the council keeps whispering in his ear, a moon-marked Omega will either save his line or end it, about how every decision he makes is weighed, measured, twisted into proof that he's either too cruel or too weak. Where does that leave us? I ask finally, when my voice grows hoarse and the room feels too small for all the truths we've spilled into it. He looks at me for a long, unreadable moment. In danger, he says, from everyone, including each other. He stands, setting distance between us again. Armor creaks softly. At the door, he hesitates. You remain my prisoner, he says, as if reminding us both of the roles we're supposed to play. But you will eat, sleep, and move, as if you belong in these halls. If anyone asks, you're under my personal interrogation. And if anyone guesses what I really am? His eyes go dark and lethal. Then I'll deal with them. How? I press. Permanently. A chill slides down my spine. I'm not sure if it's fear or something else. When the door closes behind him, the room feels different. Not safer, not yet. But the walls don't seem quite as solid as they did before. Somewhere between the dungeon and this chamber, between the chains and the maps and the ghosts of dead mates, a line shifted. Cracks have started to form in both of us. I don't know yet whether they'll let the light in or bring the whole fortress down. By the time the blood moon swells over the horizon, the whole fortress feels like it's holding its breath. Wolves snap at each other in corridors, tempers fraying over nothing. Patrols come and go twice as often. The courtyard fills with clashing steel from dawn until long after dark, and the scent of anxiety hangs over the stone like smoke. Even the servants move faster, eyes lowered, ears trained for the slightest raised voice. Zane throws me to the ground for the third time that morning. The impact jars up my spine. I roll with it, breath hissing between my teeth as gravel scrapes my palms. The training yard is slick from earlier rain, the flagstones dark and shining. My lungs burn. My muscles do too, but it's a good burn, the kind that says my body is remembering it can be something other than prey. Again, he says. I glare up at him from the ground. His chest is rising and falling, breath a little rough, but his stance is steady, calm. Only his eyes give him away. They're too bright, too sharp, a storm barely leashed. You said that last time, I mutter, pushing to my feet, and the time before that. He adjusts his grip on the wooden practice blade before tossing it back to me. You'll keep hearing it until you stop telegraphing your moves. I'm not telegraphing, you're cheating, his mouth twitches. You think your enemies will play fair? I think my enemies won't be 6'4" walls of muscle with a god complex. He steps closer, and for a moment, humor flashes in his eyes. It doesn't reach his mouth. Not fully. Hold your guard higher, he says, ignoring the jab. Your ribs are exposed. You're very concerned about my ribs for a king planning to send me running. Protecting something doesn't mean keeping it, he says. The word choice hits a nerve I don't want to examine. I lift my arms, adjusting my stance. He moves around me, correcting the angle of my elbows, the placement of my feet. Every brush of his hands is efficient, clinical, and still enough to make my wolf shiver. Good, he says quietly, his chest almost touching my back. Again. We move. He attacks, I block. I attack, he deflects. Each clash of wood against wood rings in my bones. Sweat slicks my neck beneath the collar of my tunic. I lose track of how many times he puts me on the ground and drags me back up. My body aches, but it also hums, electricity dancing beneath my skin. There's a moment, just a heartbeat, when something shifts. I feint left, then cut right, exactly as he taught me 2 days ago. He anticipates it, of course, but this time when he goes to grab my wrist, I twist, ducking under his arm and slamming my shoulder into his ribs. It doesn't budge him much, but it does enough. His balance falters. I sweep his leg. For a breathless half-second, the Alpha King is weightless. Then he hits the ground with a thud that echoes around the courtyard. Silence snaps into place. Every watching guard suddenly finds something else to look at. My chest heaves as I stand over him, practice blade shaking a little in my hand. A laugh huffs out of him, surprised and low. "Well done," he says, looking up at me from the stone. Again, I offer him a hand before I can think better of it. His fingers wrap around mine, calloused and warm. The bond tugs, sharp and sweet, as he lets me leverage my weight to pull him back to his feet. For a moment we're too close, breath mingling, eyes locked. The training yard falls away. It's just him and me, and the pulse beating at the base of his throat that my wolf desperately wants to sink her teeth into. He releases my hand quickly, like he felt the same pull and didn't trust himself not to answer it. "Enough for today," he says, voice rougher than before. The storm's moving in. Only then do I notice the sky. Dark clouds roll over the mountains, swallowing the pale morning light. The air has changed. Heavier, electric. The kind that raises the hairs on your arms and makes your wolf restless. Somewhere in the distance, thunder mutters. The blood moon will rise tomorrow, swollen and red and hungry. We leave the courtyard together, our steps echoing down the stone corridors. Guards bow as we pass, eyes carefully neutral. Some of them glance at me with curiosity, others with suspicion. No one calls me Omega. Not yet. But the tension wraps around us like a second cloak. By the time we reach the battlements, the first drops of rain have started to fall. Wind whips at my cloak as I step up to the parapet, looking out over the dark sweep of forest. Lightning flickers on the horizon, turning the world silver for a heartbeat before plunging it back into gray. "You shouldn't be out here," Zane says, joining me. "The storm will hit hard. I like storms. Of course you do." I rest my forearms on the cold stone, watching the tree line shiver under the rising wind. "You're jumpier than usual. That prophecy getting louder?" His jaw tightens. The council is restless. They think the blood moon is their chance to prove I've gone soft. Rumors spread faster than fire. Rumors like their Alpha King hiding a forbidden Omega near his rooms. His gaze slices sideways to me. "Exactly like that. Then kill me," I say lightly, even though the words scrape my throat raw. Problem solved. He doesn't dignify that with a response. Instead, he stares out at the horizon, eyes narrowed. The wind pulls at his braids, loosening a few strands so they fall around his face. "In another life," he says quietly, "you would never have set foot in this fortress. You would have lived at the border with your brother and your strays, stealing my supplies and cursing my name." A faint, humorless smile tugs at his mouth. "You might have died old, or at least free. Free is a state of mind," I say, "and I'm not sure old is in the cards for either of us." "That's what I'm trying to change." His hand curls on the stone. "After tomorrow, you leave." I turn to him. No, it wasn't a question. It wasn't an answer. Lightning cracks closer, white veins slashing the sky. Thunder follows almost immediately, a low, rolling boom that vibrates in my ribs. He faces me fully now, eyes hard. "Lila, Zane, you have a brother, a network, people who rely on you. When this is over, you take them and you run, far from here, far from me. The council will come for my weaknesses first." "I'm not your weakness." "Yes, you are," he snaps. "You and everything you represent. They will use you against me. They will hurt you to control me. I will not watch that happen again." The echo of his first mate hangs between us, unspoken but heavy. I step closer, refusing to be cowed by the anger vibrating off him. "So your solution is to exile me? To shove me back into the shadows and pretend this bond doesn't exist?" "My solution is to keep you alive." His voice is a growl now. "I can survive losing a mate again. I cannot survive letting my kingdom burn because I was too selfish to cut you loose." Something inside me snaps. All my life, I say, the words spilling out hot and sharp. I've been running from men like you, from your laws, your prisons, your camps. I watched Omegas disappear because no one in power thought we were worth fighting for. I stole your drugs and smuggled your people and spat on your crest in the dirt because it was the only power I had. Rain starts to fall harder, needling my cheeks. And now I'm standing in the heart of the fortress that built those cages, I continue, voice shaking, with a mate bond tying me to the only wolf who can actually change anything. And you want me to go back to hiding? He takes a step toward me. I don't move. You think staying will fix this? He demands. You think the council will suddenly see the light because I parade my forbidden Omega in front of them? I think me leaving solves their problem, not mine. My wolf pushes against my skin, angry and wild. I'm done running from power, Zane. If this bond is a weapon, then I want my hands on it. I won't disappear so you can keep playing Martyr King. His eyes flash, caught between fury and something else. Something dangerously close to admiration. Do you have any idea what you're saying? He asks. Yes. I jab a finger into his chest, uncaring that it's solid armor and not flesh. I'm saying I will not abandon you to fight them alone. I'm saying if they come for your so-called weakness, they'll find teeth. Lightning crashes directly overhead, turning the world white. For a split second, his face is illuminated, wet, fierce, more wolf than man. Rain runs down his cheekbones like war paint. You drive me mad, he breathes. Do you know that? Good, I say. Mad kings change things. His hands hit the parapet on either side of me, caging me in. The move should feel like a threat. It doesn't. It feels like gravity. You should be afraid of me, he says, so close I can feel the words against my lips. Of what I become when the blood moon rises. Of what I'll have to do. I am afraid, I admit. My heart is hammering, my wolf howling at the storm, at him. But I'm more afraid of living the rest of my life knowing I ran from the one person who could tear this rotten system apart. The wind howls around us. The rain is a curtain, soaking through my cloak, his armor, turning the world into a blur of gray and silver. His eyes are the only clear thing. You don't understand, he says, voice hoarse. If I keep you, I doom you. If I let you stay, I'm putting a target on your heart. Newsflash, Your Majesty, I whisper. The target's been there since the moment you scented me in the woods. Something in him breaks. Later, I'll try to remember who moved first, whether I reached for him or he for me, or if the storm itself shoved us together. All I know is suddenly his mouth is on mine, hot and desperate and furious, like he's trying to argue and apologize and claim all at once. My hands find his braids, fingers tangling in rain-slick strands as I drag him closer. He groans into the kiss, one hand fisting in the back of my cloak, the other flattening at the small of my back, anchoring me against him like I'm the only steady thing in a world spinning out of control. His lips are rough. Mine are unforgiving. Teeth clash. The taste of him is rain and heat and something that feels like surrender. The bond roars to life, a wildfire racing along every nerve. My wolf howls, triumphant and terrified. His wolf answers, that deep, low rumble vibrating through his chest into mine. For a few stolen seconds, there is no counsel, no prophecy, no blood moon hanging over us like a blade. There is only this, his hands on my body like he's memorizing it, my mouth on his like I've been starving for this exact kind of ruin. He breaks the kiss first, though not by much. Our foreheads press together, breaths ragged, noses brushing. Lightning cracks again, painting us in stark white for the briefest of moments. This changes nothing, he says, voice shredded. Liar, I whisper. His laugh is broken and soft. Yes, he admits. Liar. His hands stay on me a heartbeat longer, like he can't quite bring himself to let go. Then he does. The storm rages on above us, wind tearing at our clothes, rain washing the taste of him from my lips. But the bond between us hums louder than any thunder. He turns away, looking back out at the dark line of the forest, shoulders squared against the coming war. Blood moon or not, I say quietly, wiping rain from my eyes. I'm not going anywhere. He doesn't look at me, but his fingers curl on the parapet, knuckles white. I know, he says, and that, more than the kiss, more than the storm, feels like the most terrifying thing of all. The fortress feels like a loaded crossbow, every wolf a pulled string waiting to snap. By sunrise, the courtyard is already full, steel clashing in sharp, constant rhythm. The air tastes of sweat, rain, and rising magic. the kind that makes my wolf pace under my skin. Tomorrow the blood moon will hang over all of us like a blade. Everyone can feel it. Again, Zane says. I lunge. He reads it before I move, knocking my wrist aside so cleanly the practice blade flies from my hand. Pain zings up my arm as the wood skids over wet stone. You enjoy this, I mutter. I enjoy knowing you won't die in the first 30 seconds, he says. Pick it up. I do, scowling. Around us, guards pretend not to stare. To them, I'm still only the rogue the king keeps too close. No one speaks the word Omega, but it sits between every glance. Zane steps in, nudging my feet apart with his boot, adjusting my stance with quick, sure touches. His fingers brush my hip, then my elbow, then skim my throat when he lifts my guard higher. My wolf shivers at each contact, the bond humming. Better, he says quietly. Now breathe. You lock up when you're angry. If I wanted to stab you, you'd know, I say. His mouth twitches. Then come at me like you mean it. This time I do. We fall into a rhythm, strike, block, pivot, counter. His strength is overwhelming, but he makes me work for every fall. When I finally manage to sweep his leg and force him to stumble, satisfaction flares hot in my chest. Well done, he says, eyes bright. Clouds stack higher over the mountains. Thunder mutters far away. When the first fat drops of rain hit the stones, Zane calls an end to training and leads me up to the battlements. Wind claws at our cloaks. From here, the forest looks endless and dark, the sky above it bruised and heavy, lightning veins along the horizon. You dragged me up here to admire the view? I ask. I dragged you up here because I'm running out of time to convince you to leave, he says. There it is. No, I answer. It's not a request, he replies, jaw tight. After the blood moon, you take your brother and the others and disappear. I'll see you have coin, passage, new names if you want them, and you stay here and bleed for laws that still cage Omegas? I shake my head. You think that's what I want? To hide while my mate pretends this bond doesn't exist? His gaze cuts to me, storm dark. I think you deserve to live. They will use you to break me. I've been living around men like you my whole life, I say, running from your crest, your patrols, your camps. I smuggled your people and stole your supplies because it was the only way to fight back. Now I'm standing inside the fortress that built those cages, tied to the one wolf who can actually tear them down. And you want me to go back to the shadows? Lightning flashes closer, whitening his face. If you stay, you become a weapon. Then let me choose how I'm used, I fire back. I'm done running from power. If this bond is dangerous, I'd rather stand beside it than spend the rest of my life pretending it isn't there. You don't understand, he says hoarsely. They killed my first mate because she stood too close. I will not watch that happen again. You might not be able to stop it, I say softly. But sending me away just means I die somewhere else, wondering if you're still alive. At least here, I get to fight. The wind whips around us, rain stinging my cheeks. For a heartbeat, he just stares, anger and something painfully like hope warring in his eyes. You drive me mad, he says. Good, I answer. Mad kings change things. He steps into my space, palms slamming onto the stone on either side of me, caging me in. His face is inches from mine, rain caught in his lashes. You should be afraid of me, he murmurs. Of what I'll be when the moon rises and they push for blood. I am, I whisper. But I'm more afraid of choosing safety over you. The bond snaps tight, electric. I don't know who moves first. One moment we're glaring at each other, the next his mouth crashes into mine. Heat and storm and something breaking open crash through me. I fist my hands in his braids, dragging him closer. He groans into the kiss, one hand seizing my hip, the other fisting in my cloak like he's anchoring himself. Our teeth clash, rain running between our lips, the taste of him all rain and iron and want. The bond roars, flooding every nerve with light. My wolf howls his answers, deep and rough in his chest. When he tears his mouth from mine, it's only far enough for our foreheads to touch, breaths ragged. Lightning splits the sky above us. This changes nothing, he says, voice shredded. Liar, I breathe. A broken laugh huffs out of him. His fingers tighten once more on my waist, as if he can't quite make himself let go. Yes, he admits. Liar. The blood moon rises fat and red over the fortress, and with it comes death dressed as diplomacy. They arrive at dusk, 3 rival alphas and the High Council, banners snapping in the wind, armor gleaming under torchlight. An alliance meeting, they call it. A gesture of unity before the moon swells full. Zane stands at the gates to receive them, face carved from stone, every inch the king. I watch from a window high above, my wolf restless and snarling beneath my skin. Something is wrong. The air tastes like copper and smoke, like the moment before lightning strikes. My hands curl against the sill as the procession files through the gates. Too many guards, too many weapons for a peaceful gathering. Zane must feel it too. His shoulders are rigid, his hand never straying far from the blade at his hip. By the time the war hall fills with alphas and counselors, the fortress feels like a trap waiting to spring. I'm not supposed to be here. Zane made that clear this morning, his voice low and sharp as he pressed a dagger into my hand. Stay in your chamber, lock the door. If anything happens, run. I nodded and lied through my teeth. Now I stand in the shadows at the back of the war hall, hooded and silent, one hand on the blade he gave me. Guards line the walls more than usual, their eyes too watchful. The scent of too many dominant wolves in one space is choking, thick with aggression barely leashed. Zane sits at the head of the long stone table, flanked by his inner circle. The rival alphas face him. Kyle of the Northern Territories, silver-haired and vicious, Torin from the Eastern clans, built like a mountain, and Isla, whose smile is all teeth. The High Council sits between them, robed and ancient, their faces unreadable. We appreciate your willingness to gather, Zane says, his voice calm and cutting. Though I admit surprise at the timing. The blood moon is sacred, says Elder Maris, the council's eldest. Her voice creaks like old wood, a night for truth, for clarity. Then let us be clear, Zane replies. What do you want? Kyle leans forward, eyes gleaming. We want to know why our Alpha King has grown distracted, why patrols have slackened, why rogues move freely near his borders. Rogues have been dealt with, Zane says flatly. Have they? Torin rumbles. Or have you been too busy with other concerns to notice the rot spreading in your own halls? The temperature in the room drops. My pulse kicks hard against my ribs. Speak plainly, Zane says, and there's warning in it now, the growl of a wolf showing teeth. Elder Maris stands. We have reason to believe you are harboring a forbidden Omega within these walls. Silence crashes down like a fist. I stop breathing. Zane's expression doesn't flicker. That's a bold accusation. It's the truth, Isla says, rising smoothly. We have testimony, scent trails, guards who've noticed the king's unusual interest in a certain prisoner. And more than that, Kale adds, his smile sharp. We have this. He pulls something from his cloak and tosses it onto the table. A vial. The glass glints in the torchlight, half full of clear liquid. Heat suppressants. Found in a chamber near your own, Kale continues. The same chamber where a rogue woman has been kept under your personal watch for weeks. My stomach drops through the floor. Zane's fingers curl slowly on the table. You broke into my private quarters? We exercised our right as council oversight, Maris says. And what we found confirms our worst fears. You have taken a forbidden Omega as your mate. The words hang in the air, like smoke. Around the table, wolves go still. Some look shocked. Others don't, and that's worse. It means they already knew, already planned this. My wolf snarls, clawing at my ribs, screaming at me to run or fight or do something. But I can't move. Zane rises slowly, and the room flinches. You accuse me based on a vial and rumors? We accuse you based on the bond we can smell on you, Torin says. Omega, fresh, undeniable. The prophecy warned of this, Maris says, her voice ringing through the hall. A moon-marked Omega would come, bringing ruin or salvation. You've hidden her, clung to her, and in doing so endangered us all. She is illegal, Kyle adds, an abomination under laws you yourself enforce, and yet you keep her, protect her. His eyes gleam with triumph. You've gone soft, Zane. Weak. The word lands like a blade. Weak, Zane repeats softly, dangerously. Then everything happens at once. Doors slam shut around the war hall, the sound echoing like thunder. Guards I don't recognize step forward, weapons drawn, not toward the visiting alphas, but toward Zane's own men. Betrayal sharp and immediate. Zane's inner circle explodes into motion, hands going to blades, snarls ripping through the air. But they're outnumbered. The rival alphas rise as one, flanked by their soldiers, and the High Council stands behind them like judges at an execution. "You're under arrest," Maris says coldly. "By order of the Council and the United Pax, for breaking sacred law and endangering the realm." "This is a coup," Zane snarls, and his voice rattles the stones. "This is justice," Kyle corrects. "Step down willingly, hand over the Omega, and we'll consider exile instead of execution." My blood turns to ice. Zane's eyes sweep the room, calculating odds, counting enemies. There are too many. Even he can't fight his way out of this. His gaze catches on something in the shadows. On me. For a heartbeat, our eyes lock. I see the command there, the same one he's been giving me for weeks. Run. But I'm done running. I step forward, throwing back my hood. The room goes deathly silent. Every eye snaps to me. I feel the weight of their stares, the shock, the hunger, the rage. My scent rolls out unchecked now, Omega and defiant, filling the hall like a challenge. "You want the forbidden Omega?" I say, voice steady despite the terror clawing at my throat. "Here I am." Zane moves like he's going to lunge toward me, but Torin's guards block him, blades leveled at his chest. "Lila," Zane growls, and there's fury and fear warring in his voice. "Get out of here." "No," I say simply. Maris stares at me like I'm something diseased, the moon-marked Omega, just as the prophecy foretold. "She bears the crescent scar," Isla murmurs, eyes narrowing on the mark at my collarbone I've spent years hiding. "It's her," Kyle laughs, harsh and triumphant. "Perfect. Execute her now, publicly, and the king's weakness dies with her." "You'll do no such thing," Zane snarls, and his wolf surges so close to the surface that his eyes flash gold. The bond between us flares, hot and blinding, impossible to hide now. "Look at him," Torin says, almost pitying. "He's lost to it. To her." Maris steps closer to me, flanked by guards. "You will kneel, Omega, and accept your sentence. Death for the crime of existing, for bewitching our king, for threatening the natural order." I lift my chin. I kneel to no one. Her hand cracks across my face. Pain explodes across my cheek. I taste blood. Around me, Zane roars, a sound so feral it shakes the walls. He lunges, but 3 wolves pile onto him, forcing him to his knees. Steel presses against his throat. "Harm her again," he snarls, "and I will burn this kingdom to ash." "You're in no position to make threats," Kyle says. "The Omega dies, you abdicate, or we kill you both and let the packs tear themselves apart." The bond screams between us, pulling tight enough to rival alphas, the wolves baying for my blood. "If you want to sacrifice," I say, "then take it. But you'll have to kill me yourself because I'm done being afraid of you." Elder Maris raises her hand and the room holds its breath. The blood moon blazes through the high windows, painting everything red. The blood moon paints everything the color of fresh wounds. The war hall is a cauldron of sound, snarls, shouted orders, the scrape of boots and steel on stone. Zane is on his knees, 3 wolves holding him down, blades pressed to his throat. I stand in the open like an offering, ringed by council guards, the red light from the high windows, turning their robes into pooled blood. "Enough theatrics," Kyle snarls. "End this." Elder Maris lifts a hand for silence. Her eyes gleam as they sweep over us, king and Omega, crown and curse. Before judgment is passed, there is one more truth to reveal. A shape detaches from Zane's side of the room, Ronan. His beta mark glints at his throat as he steps into the center of the hall, shoulders squared. He's been at Zane's right hand since the beginning. Quiet, steady, trusted. I've seen him spar with the king, laugh with him, bleed for him. Zane goes utterly still. "Ronan," he says, voice low with warning. "Get back in line." Ronan doesn't move. His gaze flicks to me, then to the council. Something like shame crosses his face and hardens into resolve. "I can't," he says. The words drop like stones. Torin smiles, slow and satisfied. "Go on, then." Ronan draws a breath. "I fed them information, patrol routes, supply lines, weak points in the fortress." His jaw works. "I told them about her. The floor seems to tilt under my feet." "You?" Zane's voice is soft, almost gentle, and somehow that's worse than a roar. "Why?" Ronan's eyes flash, hurt and fury tangled together. "Because you forgot why we fight. You forgot what Omegas are. Tools for breeding, bargaining chips, not this." He jerks his chin toward me like my existence is an insult. You started bending for her, questioning the laws, questioning the council. The Alphas talk. They say you'll dismantle everything we've built just to keep one Omega alive. What you've built, I say, is a cage. He doesn't look at me. What we've built is order. Without it, we go back to chaos. Packs tearing each other apart over bloodlines, Omegas used as weapons by anyone strong enough to claim them. The council promised a new regime. No Omegas, no weakness, no more wars over them. Just Alphas and Betas. Clean. My stomach rolls. So you sell out your king and murder half your species for clean? He flinches but lifts his chin. Someone had to do what you wouldn't, Zane. Zane's eyes are burning gold now, the wolves holding him shift uneasily, as if they can feel the pressure building under his skin. You stood at my back, Zane says, each word measured. You swore yourself to my line. To my pack. I swore to the future of our kind, Ronan snaps. Not to your weakness. Then you are no beta of mine, Zane says. Whatever happens next, remember that. Maris claps her hands once, brittle and sharp. Confession heard, betrayal acknowledged. Now to the matter of law. She steps toward Zane, pulling something from the folds of her robe, a thin obsidian blade, its edge shimmering with a sickly dark light. My wolf recoils instinctively. The scent coming off it is wrong, old and hungry. Blood binding, Zane snarls. You dare use that here. The blood moon grants us its full power, Maris says calmly. The realm itself will bear witness. 2 counselors grab my arms. I thrash, but the magic gathers before I can jerk free. Maris slices her palm with the obsidian blade. Black-red blood wells, thicker than it should be. She flicks it toward us. The drops never hit the floor. They hang in the air, spinning, then split, half slamming into Zane's chest, half into mine. Pain detonates like fire under my skin. I choke, back arching as invisible chains wrap around my ribs, my throat, the bond between us. Zane snarls in agony, forced fully into his knees, claws tearing grooves in the stone as he fights it. The magic clamps down. There, Maris breathes, eyes gleaming. King and Omega bound in law. Now you will choose. Symbols blaze briefly on the floor between us. Lines of red light forming a jagged circle, a ritual mark I've only ever seen carved into warning stones at the border. Power hums through the hall, thick enough to taste. If you sever the bond, Maris intones, you live. Your pack survives under new leadership. She dies slowly, her life burned in penance for the stain she left on our kind. Ronan's jaw tightens, but he doesn't look away. And if I refuse? Zane grates, sweat beating at his temple. Then the blood binding turns, Maris says. It will mark you and yours as oath breakers. Every pack that swore to the council will be called to tear you down. Your wolves will die with you. Your line ends. Around us, the pack ripples. Some wolves look eager, already shifting their weight toward the council, scent sharpening with the thought of survival under a new regime. Others bare their teeth, hackles raised, hackled by the idea of surrendering their king. The fracture is visible, a crack running straight through the heart of the hall. Don't do this, Zane snarls, straining against the magic. You will tear the realm apart. We preserve it, Maris says coldly. You are the infection. She turns to the watching wolves. Witness his choice. Eyes swing between us, calculating. If he breaks the bond, I die and they live on, under traitors and butchers. If he doesn't, they face war, exile, death. Either way, someone bleeds. My wolf, stupid, loyal thing that she is, only presses against my ribs, reaching for him. Lila, Zane rasps, meeting my gaze. His eyes are molten gold around shattered gray. Don't look at me like that. Like what? My voice comes out raw. Like you've already forgiven me, he says. You don't understand what this will cost. I understand exactly, I whisper, because I can see it. How exhausted he is from holding everyone's fate alone. How the crown has eaten pieces of him year by year, sacrifice by sacrifice. How easy it would be to make one more necessary choice and let me be the price. Kyle's voice cuts through the charge in the air. End it, Zane. Break the bond. Prove you still belong to your pack, not to her. Some of Zane's own wolves murmur agreement, low and uneasy. Others answer with growls. My hands clench against the counselor's grip. If I stand here and do nothing, this hall will become a slaughterhouse. Brother against brother. Pack against pack. All in my name. I can't let that happen. Let him go, I say, forcing my voice to steady. Bind me instead. Maris laughs brittle. You don't dictate terms, child. I'm not dictating, I say. I'm offering. You want your example? You want your penance? Take it, but leave them out of it. Zane jerks against the binding, fury lighting his features. No, you will not bargain with yourself. Why not? I snap back. You've been bargaining with me since the forest. He flinches like I slapped him. Listen to her, Kyle says smoothly. She understands her place. Do what needs to be done, Zane. Sever it, let her die, and we can all move forward. The magic around my ribs tightens, sensing decision. The bond pulses, fraying at the edges as if bracing for the blade. I look at Zane. I remember his hands on mine in the training yard. His confession about his first mate. The way he kissed me on the battlements, like he'd finally let himself want something for himself. I don't regret it, I say quietly, and the whole hall seems to lean in to hear. Meeting you, fighting you, loving you, even when it made no sense. A murmur ripples through the pack at that word. Zane's breath stutters. If you break it, I continue, I'll die knowing I chose this. That I walked into your world with my eyes open, that it changed something in you, whether they see it or not. Tears prick, hot and furious. I will not let them fall. And if you don't? He asks, voice barely sound. Then we burn together, I say, but the choice isn't about me, Zane. It's about what kind of king you are. The one who kills his mate to stay on a leash, or the one who risks everything to cut the chain? The hall holds its breath. For a moment, all I can hear is my own heart and the low, dangerous growl building in his chest. Slowly, deliberately, he lifts his head, meeting the eyes of every wolf watching. I am done letting you decide what my crown means, he says to the council. Done spilling blood to keep your power comfortable. Maris's face goes white. Think carefully. I have, he bites out. Then to me, softer, Lila, whatever happens next. I know, I say. The magic demands an answer. Zane bares his teeth, defiant. I will not break the bond. The blood-binding shrieks. It's not a sound, not really. It's pressure, tearing through the hall, through my skull, through the link between us. The symbols on the floor flare blindingly bright, then crack like glass. Wolves stagger. Some drop to their knees, hands over their ears. The council reels, robes whipping in a sudden, unnatural wind. The power they try to use to control him turns, hungering. In the chaos, one truth hits like a blade. If I stand here and let this play out on their terms, we all die anyway. So I do the one thing no one expects. I step into the circle of burning symbols, straight toward the storm of magic trying to tear us apart. I step into the burning circle of symbols, and the world explodes. The blood-binding magic reacts the instant my feet cross the threshold, not with rejection, but recognition. The jagged red lines flare white-hot, searing up from the stone and wrapping around my ankles, my wrists, reaching for the crescent scar at my collarbone like a key finding its lock. Pain detonates through every nerve. I scream, back arching as something ancient and vast tears awake inside me. Not my wolf, something older, deeper, threaded through my bones since birth. The prophecy wasn't a warning, it was a promise. Lila! Zane roars, fighting against the wolves holding him, but I can't answer. The magic surges, flooding my veins with liquid moonlight, and suddenly I'm not standing in the war hall anymore. I'm standing under an endless sky, the blood moon hanging so close I could touch it, and a voice like wind through stone speaks directly into my mind. Child of the cursed moon, will you choose sacrifice, or will you choose fire? I choose them, I gasp, all of them, even if it burns me. The moon laughs, wild and approving. Then reality crashes back. Moonlight explodes through the stone ceiling, not metaphorical, not gentle, but a column of pure silver fire that smashes through ancient rock like it's paper. The war hall fills with blinding radiance. Wolves cry out, shielding their eyes. The council staggers back, robes whipping in a sudden gale that smells of ice and ozone and old wild magic. The blood-binding shatters. The obsidian chains around Zane and me crack apart like glass, the dark magic screaming as it's burned away. He lurches to his feet, eyes wide and gold and locked on me as I stand at the center of the circle, wreathed in moonfire that doesn't burn my skin but makes the air around me shimmer. What? Maris chokes, face pale with shock. This isn't possible. You wanted the moon marked. Omega, I say, and my voice echoes, layered with something that isn't quite mine. You found her. The crescent scar on my collarbone blazes, light pouring from it like a wound, Power surges through me, wild and vast, and I finally understand what the prophecy meant. Not destruction. Not salvation. Choice. The magic listens to me. I reach for the threads of the council's blood ritual still hanging in the air and pull. The spell reverses. Dark red lines snap away from me and Zane, recoiling like serpents, then lash toward the ones who cast them. Maris screams as the binding wraps around her throat. The other counselors stumble, clawing at invisible chains, suddenly choking the breath from their lungs. No! Kyle snarls, shifting mid-lunge, his wolf form massive and silver-furred. He launches himself at me, jaws wide. Zane intercepts him in midair. They collide with a bone-shaking crash, wolf and king tangling in a blur of claws and teeth. Zane's armor is gone, his shirt shredded, the dragon tattoos on his arms blazing gold as his own wolf surges to the surface. He's faster, stronger, every movement brutal and precise as he drives Kyle back toward the wall. Chaos erupts. Torin roars and shifts, rallying the wolves loyal to the council. Zane's inner circle answers with snarls of their own, and suddenly the war hall is a battlefield. Bodies slam together, claws rake stone, blood sprays across the floor in dark arcs. Ronan moves toward me, blade drawn. I don't think, I just react. The moonlight bends to my will, solidifying into a barrier that sends him sprawling backward. He hits the ground hard, gasping, and stares up at me with something close to terror. You were right about one thing, I say, stepping toward him. Omegas are dangerous. You just forgot we're dangerous to you. He scrambles back, but the magic holds him pinned. Across the hall, Isla shifts and tries to flank Zane. I fling a hand out, and moonfire lashes across her path, forcing her to skid to a halt or be burned. She snarls, ears flat, then bolts for the doors. Two of Zane's wolves give chase. Maris is on her knees now, the blood binding squeezing tighter. Her face purples as she claws her throat, eyes bulging. Around her, the truth the magic ripped from her mind spills into the air like smoke, visible to anyone with the will to see it. Images flicker, backroom deals, gold-changing hands, Omegas dragged screaming into camps while the council looked away. Packs slaughtered for refusing to comply. Laws twisted not for order, but for control. Wolves freeze, staring. Some of Zane's own guards look sick. They lied, someone whispers. Then louder, they've been lying the whole time. The fragile loyalty holding the council's forces together shatters. Wolves begin to peel away, backing toward the walls, unwilling to die for a regime built on corpses and deceit. Others drop their weapons entirely, kneeling in submission. Not to the council, but to Zane. Kyle, bleeding from a dozen wounds, sees the tide turning and makes a desperate lunge for Zane's throat. Zane catches him by the scruff and slams him into the stone floor. Once, twice. The third time, Kyle goes limp. Yield, Zane snarls, teeth at his throat. Kyle's eyes roll, glazed with pain and fury. But he bares his throat. Submission. Zane releases him with a disgusted shove and turns, bloodied and breathing hard, to face the remaining counselors. It's over, he says. Maris gasps one last breath, then goes still. The blood binding, with no one left to feed it, unravels into ash. The other counselors collapse, unconscious or dead. I can't tell, and right now I don't care. Ronan is still pinned under the moonlight. He stops struggling, staring at me with something like awe and hate tangled together. You won't kill me, he says hoarsely. You're not like them. No, I agree. I'm worse. Because I'll make sure you live long enough to watch everything you tried to build burn. Zane steps up beside me, one hand settling warm and possessive on the small of my back. The bond between us hums, stronger than ever, unbreakable now. Take him to the cell, Zane orders. 2 guards drag Ronan away, still staring at me over his shoulder. The hall is a ruin. Shattered stone, scorch marks, blood pooling in the cracks between flagstones. Wolves kneel everywhere, heads bowed, waiting for their king's word. The moonlight around me begins to fade, the power retreating like a tide. My knees buckle. Zane catches me before I hit the ground, pulling me tight against his chest. I've got you, he murmurs. I know, I breathe. Above us, through the shattered ceiling, the blood moon hangs red and watchful, but the magic is quiet now. Satisfied, Zane lifts his head, eyes sweeping the ruined hall, the wolves waiting for judgment. The old laws are dead, he says, voice ringing with command. We build something new, and anyone who doesn't like it can leave now. No one moves. Slowly, one by one, they bow, not to the council, not to fear, to their king. and to me. The moonlight fades and Zane collapses. One moment he's standing, blood-streaked and victorious, the next his knees buckle and he goes down hard. I catch him before his head hits stone, his weight nearly dragging me with him. "Zane!" His name tears out of me, raw and desperate. His eyes flutter, unfocused. Blood seeps from a dozen wounds, claws, teeth, the price of fighting an entire rebellion with nothing but fury and will. His breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps. "Healers!" I scream. They come running, but I see the doubt in their eyes when they kneel beside us. One of them, an older woman with silver streaking her hair, presses her hand to his chest and goes pale. "His wolf is fractured," she says quietly. The strain of the battle, the blood-binding breaking, it pushed him past his limits. Both halves are tearing each other apart, trying to heal. "Fix it," I demand. "My lady, fix him or I will burn this place to ash." My voice doesn't sound like mine. The moonfire still simmers under my skin, ready to answer if I call. She swallows hard and nods. They carry him to his chambers. I don't leave his side. Can't. The bond between us is a live wire, fraying at the edges where his pain bleeds into mine. Every labored breath he takes pulls at something deep in my chest. The healers work through the night, stitching wounds, forcing potions between his lips, chanting low words meant to coax his wolf back into balance. But nothing holds. He's slipping, the bond dimming like a candle in the wind. "You need to rest," the head healer says to me sometime near dawn. "The bond strain could kill you too." "Then let it," I say, gripping his hand tighter. I pour everything I have into the bond, strength, will, the stubborn refusal to let him go. My wolf howls, clawing at the connection between us, demanding he answer. For hours, there's nothing. Then, just as the sun breaks over the mountains, his fingers twitch in mine. His eyes open, gray and tired, but alive. "Lila," he rasps. I nearly sob. "You're awake. You're crying." His thumb brushes clumsily at my cheek. "Don't, you nearly died, you stubborn bastard." "Worth it," he murmurs. Then his gaze sharpens. "The pack?" "Waiting," I say, "outside. They don't know what happens next." He sits up slowly, wincing. The healers protest, but he waves them off. When he tries to stand, I slip under his arm, bracing his weight. Together, we make it to the door. The courtyard is full. Every wolf in the fortress has gathered, faces upturned, waiting. Some look hopeful, others wary, a few openly hostile. The fracture from last night still runs deep. Zane takes a breath, then steps forward onto the balcony overlooking them. I move with him, fingers threaded through his. A murmur ripples through the crowd. They see us together, Alpha and Omega, king and mate, bound and unashamed. "Last night," Zane begins, voice carrying over the stones, "the old order fell. The council that claimed to protect you built its power on lies and blood. That ends now." Silence. "I will not rule the way they did," he continues. "I will not cage Omegas or pretend strength comes from cruelty. We build something new, together." A wolf near the front shifts his weight. "And her?" he asks, gesturing to me. "The forbidden Omega who broke sacred law?" Zane's hand tightens on mine. "She is my mate, my queen. And if you cannot accept that, you're free to leave." The crowd stirs, uncertain. I step forward before I can second-guess myself. "I know what you've been taught," I say, and my voice shakes but holds. "That Omegas are weak, that we exist to serve. But I've spent my life proving that's a lie. I've fought for those you've forgotten, bled for those you've caged, and last night I stood between you and destruction." I meet as many eyes as I can. "I'm not asking for your love. I'm asking for a chance to show you what we could be if we stop treating half our people like they're disposable." A long, heavy silence. Then from the back, a young wolf drops to one knee, then another, and another. Not everyone. Some turn and walk away, unwilling to accept this new world. But more stay, more kneel. It's not unanimous, it's not perfect, but it's a start. Zane pulls me close, pressing his forehead to mine. Around us, the pack begins to howl, not in rage, but in acknowledgement. In oath. "This is it," he murmurs. "No going back." "Good," I whisper. "I'm done running." His mouth curves into something almost like a smile. "Then let's burn the old world down and build a better one." Behind us, the sun rises over a kingdom that will never be the same. And for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of what comes next. If you're still with us after this wild journey, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from and what your favorite moment was. Was it the battlement's kiss? The moonfire unleashing? Let us know. And if you loved Lila and Zane's story, stay tuned because we've got an uncensored werewolf romantic novella dropping soon that will take everything you loved about this story and turn the heat all the way up. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, keep howling.